Hello and welcome back to this Library of Ruina series. In this video, we'll be taking on the Liu Association Section 1. Honestly, the best thing you can say is that this reception gives us 4 more copies of Fervor, but the cards are interesting at least, so let's get started. The Liu Association Section 1 is a 2-act 5v5 fight with the first act facing you against 5 generic Liu Section 1 fixers. They have 99 HP, 49 stagger resist, are pierced, stagger injured, and have 3 passives. Speed and Fervor are what you'd expect from Liu fixers, but these fixers also come with Singular Strike. Their decks are also based on enabling Singular Strike, so bring plenty of cards with block on 1. The decks consist of 1 Frontal Assault, 1 Emotional Turbulence, and 3 of 2 new cards. The first one is Single Point Stab. This is a 0 cost with a single 3-9 pierce die, which gets boosted to 511 because of Singular Strike. Additionally, it inflicts 1 burn on hit and, on use, at the start of the next scene, draws all copies of Single Point Stab from the deck. Like most single die pages, this is fairly easily countered with a block on 1. That's not so with their next page, Burning Flash. This is a 6-10 slash that inflicts 1 burn on hit. Additionally, if the user has another Burning Flash in hand, it gets discarded and the user draws a page and adds that die to the Burning Flash they just played, giving it 2 6-10 dice. Notably, from my testing, Singular Strike will trigger on both the dice, so this rolls like an 8-12, 8-12, so it's fairly hard to beat. I would recommend bringing page with block on 1 and 2 if you're struggling, but it shouldn't be too difficult. I'd recommend bringing lots of mass attacks, especially Yan's Destroyed Blade if you have it, as well as getting mass attack eco pages in preparation for the second act. This act faces you against 2 generic Liu Section 1 fixers, as well as Chun, Miris, and Xiao. The generic fixers are identical to the first act. Chun has 126 HP, 62 stagger resist, is blunt damage and pierce stagger injured, and has 4 passives. Speed and Fervor are standard for Liu fixers. Furious Fire Rending the Skies doubles the burn inflicted by 2 random combat pages each scene. It'll be noted by a fire icon on the page. He also has Blunt Mastery. His deck consists of 1 Emotional Turbulence, 2 Frontal Assault, and 2 of 3 new cards. Violent Flame is a 1 cost that rolls 3-8 slash, 3-7 pierce. Additionally, the slash inflicts 1 burn on hit, and on combat start, the user's page will inflict 1 extra stack of burn when inflicting burn, similar to how Dark Cloud worked from the Kurakumo clan. This is a utility page, so it's not really a threat for you. Fiery Waltz is next. This page has a 5-9 evade, 6-9 slash, 5-9 blunt. Additionally, if the target has 4 or more burn, when the slash and blunt die hit, all the enemies will get 1 burn. This page has quite strong rolls, beating an unempowered Emotional Turbulence. However, since this is Act 2, your librarians will probably have some emotion levels, as well as power boosters, to be able to contend with this page. Chun's last page is Flaming Dragon Fist. This 4 cost has a 3-8 block, then a 13-28 blunt that inflicts 6 burn on hit. This page packs a serious punch and should either be mitigated with a block on 2 if you have it, or redirected to a character that's blunt injured. Miris has 126 HP, 63 stagger resist, is pierced damage and blunt stagger injured, and has 4 passives. Speed and Fervor as well as Singular Strike and Hugging Fire sitting on Brushwood. This passive makes it so that when targets hit by the character take burn damage, they also take half of that damage as stagger damage. Miris' deck consists of 2 Frontal Assault, 3 Single Point Stab, a Fiery Waltz, an Emotional Turbulence, a Flaming Dragon Fist, and 1 new page, Fervent Emotions. This is a 4-cost page with a 7-11 slash, 6-11 blunt, and an above average slash counter die. Additionally, the page has the Emotional Turbulence power text, as well as the slash and blunt inflicting 1 burn 2 times on hit. This page is fairly hard to beat as the rolls are very high, so your best bet is to try and mitigate the damage that you take. Finally, we have Xiao. She has 400 HP, 125 stagger resist, is pierced damage and blunt stagger injured, and has 5 passives. Speed 2, giving her 2 extra speed dice, Fervor, Furious Fire Rending the Skies, Hugging Fire sitting on Brushwood, and Force of the Wildfire. This passive makes her attacks inflict 1 extra burn on hit, as well as a new status, Force of a Wildfire, which lasts for 2 scenes. When a character with Force of a Wildfire is staggered, all enemies are inflicted with burn equal to half of the staggered character's burn. Avoiding getting staggered is fairly important as the effect can snowball, especially with Hugging Fire sitting on Brushwood. Xiao's deck consists of 3 Frontal Assault, a Violent Flame, a Fiery Waltz, 2 Emotional Turbulence, a Fervent Emotions, and Raging Storm Love. This is a 5-cost single-use mass individual with 2 dice rolling 3-7, 8-20. The first die is fairly easy to beat, but the second one is not impossible without regular pages. Even pages meant to counter it by having a very strong 2 will have trouble consistently outrolling Raging Storm Love. Thankfully, the page is single use, so you only have to deal with it once. This phase is fairly tough, so having mass attacks is important. Focus down Xiao and Miris first, as when they reach low HP they'll retreat. I've been able to clear this act in only 3 or 4 scenes by using 3 mass attacks on scene 2, staggering or killing almost everyone. It's important to note that Xiao will often use Raging Storm Love on the second scene due to her starting with 4 max light, so plan accordingly. Finally, I must be sounding like a broken record by now, but bring lots of sustained passives to counteract the burn that all the enemies inflict. Since we've left this reception till now for story reasons, the rewards are a bit outdated. This is partially because we don't have a very good burn key page, as Chun only starts with 3 max light, but we press on. Single point stab is an interesting concept, but doesn't work out in practice, as although you can certainly draw 2 with it, the pages you draw are always something that you aren't very happy playing. Note that a single point stab will not draw itself, but playing 2 will ensure that all 3 are in your hand at the start of the next scene. Burning Flash is a little better, but in my opinion still not great. Singular strike decks are typically bad, and while Burning Flash will have 2 dice fairly often, it's a bit unwieldy to use since you're forced to not use Singleton, and if you can't consistently trigger the effect, then it'll feel pretty awful. Violent Flame is a situational card for burn decks. I'm personally not a huge fan since it uses up one of your speed dice slots with a page with poor rolls that doesn't draw pages or restore light, so I'd rather just use another clashing page, but in all-in burn strategies, I'm sure it could put in some work. I'm just not sure of the power level of that sort of deck. If I were to make an all-in burn deck, I'd rather play Fiery Waltz to share the burn with others. The roll range is quite nice, but compared to Emotional Turbulence, you do lose out on the utility of the counter die, and this will sometimes not inflict any burn. This page is definitely best if you're running multiple burn librarians to more easily get the amount of burn required to trigger the effect. Fervid Emotions is a decent bomb page. If you're still running Eugen with the tailoring or inkover, then this definitely is a very strong upgrade. Beyond that, I'm not personally a huge fan since it's a 4 cost with 2 dice, even though they're both very strong. The counter die is the key feature, but I'd rather just use Emotional Turbulence or Repressed Flesh to get those. However, I know a lot of people have been saying that it's really strong. Finally, Flaming Dragon Fist, which is exclusive to Chun and Miris, is not a good page. I'd compare it to Lock, which also has a weak block on 1 and a strong blunt on 2, but this one doesn't clash with 3 die pages as well since you'll be tanking the 3rd page, and again, for 4 light, I'm expecting something fantastic. In the next video, we'll be finishing the middle right branch of Star of the City. I'll see you soon, and as always, thank you for watching.